Hey there guys, welcome back. I am here with another scrapbook layout for you today. I'm doing a little stash busting. We're going to be playing with a lot of stamps. I have some really fun camping themed photos, and these are my two boys and my friends' children that they've grown up together, and we do a camping trip every year, and they played this super fun game. They all had these sleeping bags and they called it Slug Monster. So I'll tell you more about that, but you can see them in their sleeping bags and they're just kind of going crazy, having a good time. So I am going to document this memory, and I am using the Into the Wild paper pack. Now this is a retired paper pack, hence the stash busting, but I did pull in several stamps that I am planning on using today, especially this one called S'more Adventures. And close to my heart right now during the month of March 2023 is having a huge stamp and thin cut sale. So all these stamps are on sale, and it is, I mean, there's some amazing deals. So if you've had your eye on some of these stamp sets or just any stamp set, go and see if it's in the sale, because most of them are, and it's a great opportunity to get those for your stash. So we have S'more Adventures, all these super cute camping icons. There's the Wander Scrapbooking with some fun outdoor adventure type stamps, and then the Wander Cardmaking. So I just love these little, I thought So Glad We're Friends would be really perfect. And then I'm a happy camper when I'm with you, because they just loved it. I mean, so many fun memories. And of course they were, you know, much more fun when they had their friends there than just camping with mom and dad. So we're going to be pulling these in. And I do want to show you, this is a brand new stamp set, special just or exclusive for the sale. It's called Summer Bucket List, and there are all these great, you can either just word sentiments to add to your layout. You guys know how much I love my word stickers. Well, now you can kind of make your own, or even some of these are large enough to be titles. So bucket list, camping, road trip, hiking, outdoor movie night, stargazing, beach day, read a book, family time, build a sandcastle, bonfire and s'mores, sleepovers, bike rides, sidewalk chalk drawings, water fights, fireworks, and date night. And there's little check marks, and then some dashed lines and little kind of bursts that you can stamp with. So really awesome stamp set. This is one I'll probably never part with. So I have a few large pieces of paper and then some scraps, and I want to use, this is going to be a single page layout, but I thought the stars were really fun, because even though it's light in the photos, you know, it was at the end of the day and we just had long days in the middle of the summer. So I thought the stars were kind of fun for that. Plus it has the blues. There are some greens and then browns in the trees, and then predominantly blues. So I will pull in, definitely want to introduce the green, and then I have this gray. That's a great kind of neutral pattern. That's the opposite side. This one, I love text paper, but this had kind of a baby theme, so a lot of this is like bundle of joy and, you know, so precious. Definitely more geared towards baby photos, so I don't think that I'll be pulling that one in per se. And then maybe this tree paper, because that works so well with the mountain theme. Since I want to bring this green in, I'm going to see how this works. And I always like to, you could just have it solid, but I thought it'd be fun to bring more of the blue star background in. So I'm going to bump this in, and then I'll just trim off the bottom if that works. And for my photos, I was kind of thinking, I printed these two. This is a 3x4 and this is a 3x3. And I thought it might be kind of fun to have them, you know, maybe in a grid like this. You could always kind of bump them over more, and that just naturally creates kind of nooks and crannies for titles and embellishments and journaling. But I think I'm going to rein this in and have a little bit more centered on the layout. So I think I want to bring in some white cardstock to frame those. I cut this down to 9x9, and let's see how that works. And I printed my photos with a white border, so that white against the white just really doesn't make sense. So I am going to mat those. So I cut down some sapphire blue cardstock, and we'll have a double photo mat. So there'll be the white with the blue around the edge, and that will just really help them to pop off that white background. I want to stamp my title, And that's why I brought in the white background, because I wouldn't really have been able to successfully stamp, well, you can on pattern paper, but it just wouldn't have shown up very well. So the white background is just going to give me a spot for my stamping to really stand out. So that looks good. I could ink up the edge to have that stand out, but I think I'm just going to mat that on Sapphire cardstock just to give that a little definition. And then I am going to trim this one down. I do want a 1/2 inch margin on the top, bottom, and side. So I will cut this down. I'll be right back. So this piece is now 7.5 by 11, and we'll tuck that right back there. I am going to ink the edges up of this one with Sapphire ink. While I do that, I will explain the game of Slug Monster. So these types of mummy sleeping bags, you just, I guess, feel like a slug when you're hanging out in them. But we put down a big tarp because we didn't want them ruining the sleeping bags. And they basically just like tackled each other while in their sleeping bags. This went on for hours every day. It was hilarious. So much laughter and giggles coming from, and then they'd kind of move around like inchworms. It was a good time. So now we're going to do a bunch of stamping with our S'more Adventure stamp set. This is so cute. I've got my Versamat. I'm going to flip it over to use the foam on the back because that just helps get a better impression. I have some New England Ivy paper, and I'm going to use the lighter side to stamp some of these trees. And then I have Sapphire because I'm going to stamp this super cute tent here. And I absolutely love, you guys have heard me say this before, but all of the stamp set, and they all come with these little protective foam inserts. So if you don't have the Versamat, you can use this. And then the dies come on their own magnetic sheet, and everything fits neatly in the pocket. So that just makes me super happy. I love to have an organized space, and everything together in one spot just makes a lot of sense. So I am typically a stamp first, die cut second kind of a person. Some of you like to, die cut all your shapes and then stamp. There is no right or wrong way. But in this case, I want a bunch of trees, and I can die cut several at once. So I'm going to just stamp one, and then I'll layer cardstock under that to die cut more, and then we'll stamp them when they're die cut. So you want to use a block that is similar in size of the stamp. This is definitely a little bit overkill, but I've got something on my other block, so I'm just going to run with that. So I am going to use intense black ink. That way, if I want to add some shading with my tri-blend markers, I can. Stamping these images on colored cardstock makes it super easy. You don't have to color them in, or you can stamp them on white and completely color them in with all the shading, but you can still add shading. This is kind of a faster way to color your images just by starting on cardstock. So we just want one of these cute little tents, and I'm using the lighter side of the Sapphire and then of the New England Ivy. So we will just stamp that down. Perfect. And then I also want to use this cute little bear. So let me grab him out, and I think I'm going to stamp him on toffee. So let me grab some toffee cardstock. I definitely am going to add some little shading to this guy. So we'll just get him on top. That way I can just die cut everything at once. And you know what? While we're at it, let's do the fire pit, or the fire pit. Yeah, I guess it'd be a fire pit. I almost said fireplace, fire pit. The campfire. So we'll stamp that, and then also let's use the lantern. That'll be cute. This will just give us lots of options to embellish with. And, if you don't use them, you can tuck them back in the envelope. So we'll just put these back, keep things tidy. And I love that you can kind of customize these and color them to match your layout. So give yourself enough room to add your dies, because the dies, do give a little bit of a border. So if you stamp them too closely together, then it'll be an issue when you die cut those out. I don't mind fussy cutting, but when you're doing a lot of images like this, it certainly saves a ton of time to have the coordinating dies, and it does give you such a nice finished edge. There's also this little mountain range in here, and I was thinking maybe I could layer that over the bottom. That might look kind of fun. I'm going to grab some charcoal. Is that the right color? Yes. And then I'll die cut this as well. We have all of our super cute little die cut pieces here. We got the bear, fire. I'm going to add some color to these, and then the little stitched mountains, or the mountains I cut out with that stitching detail. And I love that this lifts up so you could tuck things in there if you wanted to. And then I also stamped and die cut this little stamp here. This is from the adventure badges, and it's heavily stained, so you really cannot appreciate it there. But I'll bring in the catalog that these were in, and they're still available at the time I filmed this. They are on the website, but they're little just circle adventure badges. And Find Your Wild, RV There Yet? This one says, you will never know until you go. Adventure awaits, and welcome to the wild. Find your own way. And just really cool little images there. I was super excited to get my hands on this stamp set, and I've already used it a ton. So actually there's some artwork in the catalog with the ones I'm using, and then the Adventure Badges stamps. I have a bunch of my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, and I love these because you really don't have to know what you're doing to make your coloring look good. For the fire pit here, I keep saying fire pit, for the campfire, I have the earth brown blend, and I'm using the medium and the light to color in the logs underneath the flame. And then you could just add a little shadowing with the darker color on the bottom side of the log where it would be darker. And then for my flames, I'm using burnt orange, and I'm kind of starting with the deeper color at the base of the flame, and then getting lighter as I go up. And there's like 2 layers to the flame. So on the outside edge, I'm using the light yellow. Speaking of coloring, the Creative Design Team Creatives membership group is all about color this month. Each week you get a full deep dive class into the topic of coloring. And, we have a different instructor each week, so you're getting a different perspective and so many different ideas. Each class has a printable PDF handout to accompany the class to really, have those. You can make notes on your sheet, and you have those references for the classes, and you can watch them at your own pace. You can go back and watch them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the membership group is actually open right now for a very limited time. We're on the closing end of our opening. We just had our 1-year anniversary event. So if you want to check that out, come on over and join us. There's no long-term commitment. You could just sign up for a month and see how you like it. But I highly recommend it. You are going to learn a ton. It's going to get you creating. It's going to teach you new techniques and get you using your craft supplies. I should also add that you do not have to use the products that we're using. It is not product focused, it's technique focused. So we want you to use your stash. We want you to use what you have on hand and make the most of those supplies because you love them. That's why you bought them, right? So we're going to teach you how to use them. On my little tree, I am adding some dull green marker that really goes well with the New England ivy and just gives it a little bit of dimension, kind of going underneath the layers there and around the edge, just kind of touching up a little. It's subtle, but it does make a difference. On the bear, I use the earth brown blend and also the brown gray blend. I'm sanding the top of my little mountain range here just to give that a little texture. And now we have all of these fun custom stamped embellishments. Let me bring my layout back into the center here. I am thinking of creating a little embellishment cluster down in the lower right because my title is going to be in the upper left. So maybe the mountains, I'm not sure if I want to put the tent there. Now I do need to cut off the corners, so I'm going to need to hide that. And you know what? There's a little zip strip here. That's going to bring in more of that blue pattern. It's just kind of a little cross stitch pattern on this white strip of paper here. So I thought that was kind of a fun little accent. We have some extra white space down on the bottom, so this will kind of lessen that. This little strip will finish off the bottom nicely, and now that mountain range will kind of come out from underneath that strip and look a little more finished. I am going to trim it down. I don't want it covering so much of my photo. We don't want to miss out on that slug monster action happening in the picture. My son and my friend's daughter are going to go head to head in a full-blown slug battle. It's too funny. Kids come up with the funniest games. So that's going to create a little cluster down in the corner, kind of framing that in. And then maybe this tent, I think that's going to look cute there. We could put it up top, but I do like it in this area. I want to make sure I have enough room for my titles. So let's focus on that. There are so many different sentiments on here, and they're small, but if you build enough together, it is big enough to have an impact for a title. Titles don't have to be big. Usually my titles end up being kind of substantial, but today I'm going to stamp this right on the layout, and it says, let's make fun memories. So I'm lining it up on my layout where I want it, and then I'm going to pick it up with a block. Oops, I missed my word fun. Let's just tuck that little guy right back in the middle there. Now you are definitely going to want to practice. Grab a piece of scratch paper and practice. Make sure that your letters are spaced and lined up and everything looks good. And that looks great. So I am going to slide this little piece of foam. I already did adhere those down, but that's okay. I can lift up. I could have put it directly behind the layout as well. I don't know why I didn't do that, to be honest with you. But let's ink this up. Double check the edges of your block and make sure you do not have any ink on the edges of your block. And then stamp straight down, give it a second to soak in, and hope for the best. Just kidding. And you know what? The top of my F did not come out very well. So remove those other stamps. Do not ink it up again. Just use, because it still has ink on it where it didn't come off, and that will be easier to line up. And perfect. Yay, happy dance. There is a tiny little heart on this stamp set, and I am going to fill in those empty spaces on either side of fun with the toffee heart. So I'll put one on the left, ink it up again, and one on the right. And I thought that was just a cute look just to kind of fill that in. We can remove our little foam piece here. I am going to grab one of my favorite stamp sets. This is called the Background Element stamp, and I love it. It's just this great visual texture stamp. I'm going to add a little detail behind some of the photos. I just watched a video my friend Chelsea created. Chelsea's actually one of the creative design team teachers. If you don't follow her YouTube channel, you definitely want to check that out. I will list her video that I saw her do this in the description box below. It's a fabulous video, packed full of so many ideas. But just to add a little color and frame in the photo, we're going to stamp this. And then I thought it was really cool. She took the splatter stamp and stamped it over it. So I know it's kind of hard to appreciate in the photo, but it just adds so much texture with both the little kind of the brush stroke and then the splatter on top of that. I'm going to repeat that in the upper right corner. So I like to hold it up and then move my photo, and that way I know it's going to be in the right location. So then we'll repeat that one more time on the top, and then we can go in with our splatter stamp. We like to call this controlled splatter, so you get that kind of splattery mix without, or splattery look without the risk of splattering places you don't want it. I can bring back in my photos, get that back into frame, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere down my little embellishments because I do know I want these in that area. Now my little mountain kind of fell apart because I cut it really short and I cut into where the connector pieces were, which is fine. I'll just glue it back together and we can finish off the bottom with our little branding strip here, and then bring in our trees and kind of create that little L-shaped corner frame around this embellishment cluster. This adventure badge says find your wild, and I thought that was perfect because the kids were definitely going wild. Now we're going to step this tent up with a little paper piecing. So I have just a scrap of this pattern paper from this collection, but all I need is the flaps on the tent. So I'm inking that up, and then I want the left flap and the right flap. So I'm just kind of making sure those are completely on that pattern paper. And then I can take my micro tip scissors and cut those shapes out. And we're going to paper piece them over the tent. And you will see this is going to make a huge difference in giving this tent so much character and dimension. And it just looks really cool. And you could just do this even from cardstock. It doesn't have to be pattern paper, but I thought the pattern was extra fun. We're going to add even more detail to this tent. So we have our little paper piecing to add to the tent flaps. And then I'm going to use my white gel pen to add some faux stitching. My friend Melanie over at Mel Stampin' Gallery created a layout with this stamp set, and she used the white gel pen on hers, and I thought it was such a good idea, so I'm going to mimic that look, and I will leave her video listed in the description box below as well. So if you're looking for more inspiration for this stamp set, you can check that out there. I realize it's not really showing up very well on camera, but if you go on over to my social media accounts, Instagram, Pinterest, or Facebook, to see the still shots, I think you'll definitely be able to appreciate that in the close-ups. This is a wax pencil. It's called the pickup tool, and you get 2 of them to a package, and they are awesome. If it loses its stickiness, you just sharpen it and it's like new again. But look how cute that tint is with the little paper piecing. Now we can bring in all of our little stamped embellishments and get these guys situated on the layout. So the bear has his little paw out, and he can either hold a flashlight or a marshmallow stick and over the fire, or it's like he's kind of warming his paws on the fire here. I have this tree. I could put this up top. And I'm thinking, you know, I definitely want a little cluster up here for that 3rd point, but it's just not quite right. Maybe if we tuck it behind the tent there. I kind of like that, how it frames in the bottom of the title. That looks cute. When all else fails, add a tag. I'm going to cut a tag from Toffee Cardstock. We'll tuck that right in, and that way my little lantern won't be lost. That kind of helps that stand out. And I want a word sentiment, so I have the Wander card making stamp. This one says, "So glad we're friends." And I like that, but it's kind of big up there. I could put it here. Let's try it here. Maybe if I bump these around just a bit, and we could put it kind of on the bottom. I almost don't have enough room here because I should have stamped my title up a little higher if I only knew, right? And let's see, maybe that'll just kind of anchor all of these embellishments like they're kind of sitting on that line. That way it's kind of leading your eye into the layout also, because it is an arrow on one end. I do like that. I think that's the spot. So now we still need something for up top. So I'm grabbing the same stamp set, and it says, "I'm a happy camper when I'm with you." And I thought that was fun because the kids definitely enjoy each other's company. So we'll stamp this one in Sapphire ink on white daisy and try this out up in that upper right corner. I always keep every little scrap of white daisy because when I'm stamping sentiments or even little stamped embellishments, it's predominantly on white cardstock, so it's super handy to have those right in front of me, and I have a little pull-out drawer. You know what? That's still too big. What if we cut it in half and then just use the top half, which says, "I'm a happy camper," and instead of the "with you," maybe just "happy camper"? Let's keep trimming this down. If we want to go back, we can always stamp it again. That's another aspect I appreciate about stamping too. You know, I've stamped this, but if I end up not liking it or using it, it's really not a big deal. There's hardly any waste. It was a scrap anyway. So I do like Happy Camper. I cut another tag from the charcoal pattern paper, and then I matted Happy Camper on Sapphire, so that would stand out a little bit better. I have some wooden arrows here, and I'm just kind of looking to see. There's always these ones that kind of point, and you know what? This one is a little bit more substantial. So it'll point from Happy Camper and go at a 90-degree angle down into the photo. It needs a little bit of toffee down here, so I cut a slightly larger circle to mat my adventure badge. And these little goodies from my stash, I don't even know how old these are, but there's a little bear paw in here. And I thought I'm going to tuck that right in there since I have the bear. I thought that was super cute. And I want to add just something wooden down here. So I'll grab these little chevron arrows and just put those lined up on the zip strip. I still need to add my journaling, and I've watched all of my crafty friends use these journaling strips, and honestly, this is my first time to try them, but they look pretty handy. So they're adhesive backed, and you just write out your journaling and cut where you want to separate the, in whatever length you want it. There's 2 different widths of strips as well, and yeah, they're inexpensive. I think these are going to be really nice to have on hand. So I'm just writing out the, journaling about how the kids invented a game called Slug Monster, where they basically just tackled each other while they were in their sleeping bags, and it became a daily ritual and really filled the camp with laughter. I used my gray journaling pen, and then I'm barely tacking these down in case I want to move them. They are sticky, but if you don't burnish it into the paper, I think you're going to be able to move that. So you can just use your non-stick microtip scissors to cut those wherever you want to cut them. So I'm just going to lift this up and then cut right at the end to leave the rest on my sticker sheet. And then I'm going to try maybe here. Put this little piece here. I am going to end up moving those in a second. You'll see that I bumped them up slightly and changed the configuration, and then I really burnished those into the page. There's some smiling, happy slug creatures, and then all of our fun stamped embellishments. How cute is that little bear and that tent? I love the way this turned out. Don't forget to head on over and check to see if your favorite stamps are on sale. Everything I used is listed in the description box below. And if you enjoyed this layout, please give me a thumbs up. And here are some more outdoor adventure layouts if you're looking for more inspiration. Happy crafting, and I'll see you next time.